Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at audibletrial.com/bonfiresidechat. Over 100,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
Thou shalt see further on, an abyss was begat of the ancient beast, and threatens to swallow the whole of Ulasil. Knight Artorias came to stop this. But such a hero has nary a murmur of dark. Without doubt he will be swallowed by the abyss, overcome by its utter blackness. Indeed, the abyss may be unstoppable. Still, I have faith that Princess Dusk may be rescued yet.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
I'm Jon Wolf.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is an undead favorite.
And this week we are talking about the Artorias of the Abyss DLC, also known as the Prepare to Die edition extra content. People seem to be confused about what it is, but yeah, it's everything you had to pay extra for if you were on consoles and everything that came with. This is a non sequitur.
PC,
anyway, yes.
PC.
I noticed like snapped twigs and the tripwire as I was walking down that dark corridor. It's like, what's happening here? Boom! Oh boy, trap sprung. USA. Yeah, but yeah, all that stuff. All the DLC. And as you heard, we are joined by Jon Wolf. Jon, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I have been a podcast / other things cohort of Gary's for several years on occasion. You may remember me as Gator Boy from the Dead Idea Valhalla podcast. Maybe there was a couple other weird cameos, I think, on that show at other points, too.
You were one of the imaginative teens.
I was one of the imaginative teens, that's right. What's a clerk? I remember that one.
What's a clerk? Smithing Orkin.
Yeah.
That sounds radical.
God, go listen to that. Just go listen to. There's a whole episode where Gary put all the Dungeon Mister stuff together.
Yeah, you can listen to the 20-minute audio play. Yeah. All together, based on a character from the Dragon Strike Board Quest game. Yeah, I've known Jon for a long time, about 10 years, and before that, I mean, we've been floating around the same kind of band circles before we started doing podcast circles. And then my earliest podcast, Jon was on frequently, and has been one of my video game buddies, and kind of like all my band friends. Not all my band friends were into games, so. It was a nice little side niche that Jon and I... It was downloadable content for our friendship.
So hopefully I can take some amount of the credit for bugging Gary about playing Dark Souls finally, too.
Yeah. Absolutely. You, Levi, and Cole, like everyone who were huge evangelizers for the game have now been on the show.
Yeah. So
the three of you all share credit.
We did it!
Hooray!
USA! Defense!
Dun, 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 dun.
I wish my keyboard was still set up next to... I know how to play that, but my keyboard's not set up next to my computer anymore.
So he can't do the yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Damn.
I bet you that's probably for the best.
Probably, yeah.
Previous to this, we had gone through the catacombs and the Tomb of the Giants, slaying Nito and Pinwheel and trying to figure out what their complicated relationship was. And immediately prior to this, we ran all the way around Lordran, or just checked a fac, and figured out exactly how to get to Elysial.
Yeah, it is a real arcane process, for lack of a better, less punny word. Or appropriate. It's not really a pun. I don't know. It's magic, folks. But defense. No, but yeah. So I'm coming at this from a console perspective, where this wasn't always part of the game. You know, it's like I sit down. You know, the day has come. I have been on media blackout on this thing since I heard it was announced. I was like, fingers in the ears. Even like, do you know how hard that was when the PC people were playing it ahead of me?
Yeah.
Several months. It was like, nope, nothing. So I get in there like, okay, where is it? Walking all around, trying all the obvious spots, thinking, you know, in any other game, if you paid $15 for extra content, like there would be like a billboard put above Firelink, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yep,
like,
yep.
like
or you
an
get a little quest popper, like it happens in Fallout, where it's like, you know, radio signal.
Yeah,
or a spaceship is calling you for some reason. Like, you know, that would pop up. But in this game, no, you know, not the case at all. John, what were you playing with it? And did you play the game before the DLC?
Yeah,
I know you did, but
I double dipped on Dark Souls. I bought it day one on console and then day one on PC. Mm-hmm. So, because I never thought that there would really be a PC version. So, you know, I basically started over, and I definitely just looked at a fact to figure out how to get to the DLC content, because what the fuck?
Yeah.
And as a quick sidebar, I want to say real quick, like the vindicating factor for getting this on PC, yesterday I got to try out the connectivity fix. Mm-hmm. Like, it is glorious.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing. Like, if you want to go co-op through Dark Souls, like with a buddy, and it's like, it's way too easy to just do that as a normal build, but me and Brayden are doing our double dragons, which is really hard, and we want to do the whole thing as co-op. It is a godsend. It's instant perfect summons from your friends on your Games for Windows Live thing. So big ups to the community member who made that, and I'm glad that kind of the modding is finally, you know, being used for good for Dark Souls as opposed to being used for evil. Mm-hmm. At the same time, our buddy Bob just like wrote a thing about how his character got like hit and had all of his levels drained and got dumped in the abyss. You know, unfortunate there. But on the plus side, the modding is being used for good.
Yes. Yeah. So that's another upside on being on PC. So you guys can just rub it in. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to go through this whole big thing. You know, if you don't know, the rough, you know, process is to free Dusk down in the basin, place the Lord vessel, go to Duke's, kill a special golem, and then bring the broken pendant back to where Dusk was, and then you'll be grabbed by this big barnacle-y hand that takes you to a strange, faraway land in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a super creepy hand. Like,
oh yeah,
approaching this, like I knew what to do, but approaching the end of that kind of water cave. And seeing this, you know, shimmering blackness at the end was like, you know, appropriately intimidating and cool.
Yeah,
I thought
definitely. I always really liked that cave too.
Mm-hmm. When my first playthrough of the game, I kept reading about this golden golem in Dusk, and I had no idea that she was there because I didn't think I could go. I thought there was just a drop off. I thought the drop off where the Hydra was continued. So I had no idea you could even go up that back way. Yeah. That's something I saved for my second playthrough.
Like most things, I saw a summon sign on there that let me know it was walkable ground. So yeah, not a summon
sign or orange soapstone.
Yeah, orange soapstone. Yeah. Something. Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so you're pulled into this world and you're dropped off in this viney cave inlet kind of thing with a bonfire. And
have we just like real quick? Have we talked? I feel like we would at the episode when we got to Dusk. We put off talking about Dusk, saying we'd talk about her this episode.
Yeah,
there's not much to say, but I don't know if we've really elucidated who she is.
There's not so much to say yet. So, like, if you go through, you know, if you kill the gold golem, you free her spirit. I think you have to reload, and she'll show up back on the shore. And you speak to her, and she says that she's a princess from a land long ago. And she will sell you these special sorceries that are kind of like non-destructive in nature because they are from this different place, kind of leading into this whole notion that different areas have different kinds of magic that reflect their values, right?
Well, and the big intriguing thing she says is she talks about, you know, you being her rescuer, and she says how much you remind her of Artorias, who has rescued her.
I forget if she says this if she said that pre-patch or post-patch.
She only ever says that after you rescue her in the DLC. That line wasn't even there before the DLC came out.
Well, you mean after you rescue her from the Golden Golem, but it's before you rescue her from Manus, because at that point she doesn't say, like, she just cries, and then
but if you summon her again afterwards back in Darkroot,
I could have swore she said it like with the patch. So forever for me on the PC version, like if I just kind of jammed on the talk button when I first rescued her,
maybe.
When I was playing this, I was like the first time before any of the DLC came out, I was so hungry for any lore that I would have made instant notice of that.
Yeah. No, I don't think she did it before patch. We're talking about whether it happens before or after you rescue her from Manus.
Okay. Yeah. So I suppose that's what I'm
I think before, but I might be misremembering. Yeah. Somebody will correct us. But if you're like hungry for lore, like Dusk has to seem like the weirdest dangling participle of this game, right? Because like there's just like, oh, you come from Elysial, you've been in this golem, like what? There's nothing more to it. So it's almost like there has to be more to it.
Well, I think some of this was, or a lot of this was planned and just cut.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, almost all of it, I think. Which I think, I mean, we talked about this before, but I think that owes to the quality.
Yeah.
Or the quality of it owes to that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we learn a little bit more about her, but she kind of remains the damsel in distress for most of this, right?
Yep. Yeah. And we never learned that much about her anyway.
Right.
She's a princess. She's got a goofy looking hat.
A really useful goofy looking hat.
Yeah. Yep. And she's real good at curses or being resisting curse.
Yep.
Because she's always wearing her wedding dress.
The saddest thing.
Yep. Yep.
Before the first big patch, that dress used to have poise too. Everybody wore that in PvP. That was ridiculous.
I read about that, which was so goofy. Like all of these like big hardy warriors wearing wedding dresses, like trying to slice each other's guts out.
It was stupid.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's some kind of joke you could make about that one episode of It's Always Sunny.
Oh yeah,
or reference to that one episode. Oh, here we go. It's like that one episode of It's Always Sunny where Mac gets a brain injury and gets fixated on that wedding dress. Also poppers, am I right? High five. Yeah. So
anyway, so you get sucked in. You were talking about that.
Yeah, and like the way that this area opens up kind of speaks to why they decided to put it in an end game content. Like they know if you're coming here, you're good. Like you better be ready for some stuff because there's nothing to it until like a boss fight is the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And that is the Sanctuary Guardian.
I forget, is he a Chimera or a Manticore? I always get the two mixed up.
I think he's a Manticore.
I agree.
Chimera I think has a snake for a head.
Okay.
I might be wrong about that. I can't remember who one of my friends, it might have been Zach Krause, used to say chimeras, unicorns for boys, which I always thought was pretty funny.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Let us.
So he's a unicorn for boys. Not that boys can't enjoy unicorns. Enjoy whatever mythical animals you want.
Yes.
But yeah, this is and he kind of sets the tone for the boss fights in this area. I feel like this is a very boss heavy area. So we're 4 total boss fights here, and all of them, one thing they have in common, I think, are very limited amount like windows of attack opportunity.
Right.
So there just aren't very many times you can attack this guy.
Right.
And have him do it. But they're also my favorite boss fights in the game because like they're all very fair. Like there's not really a gimmick to many of them, but they feel very fair to me.
Yeah, they move very quickly, and they have attacks that can hit you from pretty much any range. Like the Sanctuary Guardian, he has that cone area of effect attack, and then he can close the gap pretty quick with any kind of leap. So he's difficult. He is really, really difficult. Or at least he was for me. I wasn't expecting them to leap with this.
You also fight him in ankle deep water, so the lightning kind of spreads out.
Yeah.
If he hits the ground, which is a cool, like that's not used other times in the game, really.
Right.
So
one of our responses, which we'll read in the appendix, says that effect actually carries in the with like lightning weapons. He says.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I'd have to test that, but he says there's a place in the depths where it's really useful.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like a little bit of BioShock.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, I don't know how much else there is to say about the Sanctuary Guardian, except that it is a really, really fair fight.
Yeah.
If you come back after you beat them, there are 2 of them there.
I've only seen that in videos. I haven't done that before. Have you done that, John?
I did that for the first time today and that's how I got the Guardian tail for Whipfest, was with the 2.
Can you get 2 of them?
I didn't try, actually.
You can get 3.
Yeah, maybe you can just get infinite. I don't know.
Think of the whips.
The whips.
ABC, John. Always be cracking.
We talked about it off mic. Explain Whipfest.
So, in preparation for this episode, just to kind of refresh myself on the DLC, and to give myself a reason to play through again in order to do that, I started Whipfest, which is a playthrough with whips in both hands.
So good. That's so awesome. And do whips rule?
No. I didn't even realize all of the implications before starting Whipfest of like not being able to backstab, not being able to riposte.
It's like Woodstock 94. Like you had no idea what you were starting.
Yeah, pretty much. And then
and then
Limp Bizkit came on the stage and
Yeah.
wait, wasn't it the 1999 or 2000 one where all those people like got electrocuted and sexually assaulted?
I think you're right. That's what I was talking about. Exactly like the Sanctuary Guardian. I think that's what I was trying to refer to. I thought it was 94, but I'm sorry, Perry Farrell. I don't mean to disparage your great stock.
Your great stock. Oh man.
But yeah, you can't parry, you can't backstab, and they do shit for damage.
They do horrible damage. I got to 40 dex really quickly, and was still doing shitty damage. And then I spent the next 30 levels getting up to 30 faith so I could cast Dark Moon Blade, and only then did I feel like I was doing kind of okay. But I had no vitality or endurance.
Yeah.
Does it count if you upgrade one of those to the chaos, whatever that is? Quilog's Fury Sword. There we go.
So you can upgrade the whip to it? It counts as a curved sword?
I believe so, yeah.
I think that's actually the life hunt side that you can make out of a whip.
Does that still count?
I did not count that, no. Okay. That would be against the spirit of Whipfest.
You're banned from future Whipfests.
Trying to rules layer Whipfests.
Yeah, the only whip rules is that whips rule, Kole. Whipfest. Whoosh.
All that I'm saying is, you hand me the whip, I will hand you. Okay. I think that is as deep as the whip humor well goes.
Yeah, we mind that.
Yeah.
I don't know. No Devo jokes yet.
Damn it.
That's true. We'll save that.
Yeah.
We'll
save it for when a problem comes along.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, you can get a poison whip. So the game has 3 whips. All of them are terrible.
Yep.
I like how that was our punchline. So you get a poison whip.
Yeah.
A really dumb-looking poison whip.
Yeah, it's garbage.
Yep.
It's also not very powerful. Like poison is not a very powerful effect.
No.
Nope.
To be having, now when you're running around with toxic weapons and most enemies are immune to it.
So on most of the tail weapons, it's implied that it actually is like part of the tail or something like that, of like whatever you cut it off of. In this one, it is literally you are using the tail as the whip.
Yep.
It's the same way I could go make a cat whip right now.
Right.
Like if I wanted to go make a cat whip, I could literally do it right now. Close your ears, Royce.
You can't swing a cat in this town without hitting a cat whip. It just keeps going.
Yeah, I will not cut off my cat's tail for the podcast. After you beat the Sanctuary Guardian, I've never fought 2 of them at once, so that seems really hard to me. Just because they have so few opportunities to attack them.
Right.
The 2 at once, they don't have as much health.
Yeah, they're lesser. They're the lesser Sanctuary Guardians.
That's good.
Yeah, but it's funny because the whip actually, the description, it says it's an obnoxious weapon.
Yeah.
In the text. So another weird thing. This is the only boss soul that you get that doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I kept wanting them to patch something in for it.
Me too.
Yeah, like I was like, oh, cool. Give me a neat thing.
Like some kind of lightning spell, perhaps? Or like a lightning sorcery. That'd be pretty cool. Or a weapon,
Man, I want them to bring back boss souls into sorceries for for Dark Souls 2.
It would be cool if you could do the breath attack or something similar to it.
Yeah.
That would be a cool spell to trade that soul for.
Yeah.
Well, you say bring back, but they did the same thing with Manus. Then you could use his spell to get Pursuers.
Yeah.
So I know what you mean. Like make it more commonplace. Like make it an option for every soul. But like if they were going to do it on this, that would be a good way for them to do it, and they'd already done it with Manus. So
agreed. Yeah, but they could do it twice.
True.
Instead of doing nothing, it's just 10,000 extra souls. Why not just give them to you and beat the boss?
Yeah. Because, it's not even that they know you're going to die. You're going to find a bonfire right here. So, which is closer, the opening bonfire of Ulasil to the sanctuary, or the bonfire in Lost Izalith, like the two in Lost Izalith there?
I think the Lost Izalith ones are Lost Izalith one, the Daughter of Chaos to Lost Izalith. They are like the two closest bonfires in the game.
Right.
Like it feels like, but this area, similar to Demon Ruins and Lost Izalith, is very generous with bonfires.
True. Yeah, and something like strange about this, like being a person who's playing through Demon Souls right now, all the DLC, it feels like they like a Demon Souls, 1-1, 1-2, 1-3 kind of thing to me. Like that progression. It's I don't know. Maybe I'm.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah,
that makes sense. It's pretty linear.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. So this is, I didn't know this first thing that you have for the Sanctuary.
Yeah, I read this in the wiki and I didn't substantiate it. So, but yeah, the wiki says that if you kill Dusk before you come here, which is likely if you were playing
or a monster.
If you're it's likely if you're running around in a bloodstained wedding dress that you killed Dusk. But yeah, like from what I understand, she will be dead here. But I'm not sure what Elizabeth says, and I'm not brave enough to do that.
I read Elizabeth's dialogue in kind of preparation. I didn't see any reference to that.
Right.
That's interesting. I should try that because I very rarely use Dusk. Like I used her for my sorcerer character, and then I don't want to kill her because I'm not evil,
right?
Typically, but I should try that to see what happens.
Yeah, but this sanctuary is kind of like a little grotto. There are mushrooms and trees everywhere. It kind of feels like a proto, like a proto Firelink almost, or at least related in architecture a little bit, except much more overgrown and still intact. Yeah,
and you run into that Elizabeth who we talked to, who is like a gigantic mushroom lady without arms, who says that she is Dusk's effectively her grandmother. So, like, I get the sense, and this is all, there's nothing here, but, like, we know Dusk as a princess. Like, I think of her as kind of, like, maybe an advisor.
Right.
Or something like that. Like, she kind of has that, kind of matronizing speech.
Yeah.
About it. But, yeah, she looks similar to the mushrooms that you've already fought, who are, essentially feral and at least non-talkative.
Yeah.
And you get the idea that perhaps, at some point, like, they've de-evolved, maybe.
Yeah, like the mushroom people in the Super Mario movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally possible. And I'll forever be thankful to Brayton for pointing out that the DLC of Dark Souls is saving a princess from the Mushroom Kingdom. Like, yep, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, no, that is very astute, and you have to wonder if that was intentional or not.
Yeah, it'd be hilarious if it was.
Yeah,
I do not know necessarily that it is, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, she kind of lays things out for you.
Yeah, she kind of says, like, okay, so Dusk was captured by some beast from the Abyss, and Lord Artorias, Knight Artorias, came to rescue her, but he failed in the task. Kind of setting up that, A, it's weird that you see his grave a little bit earlier, so like, and that you're probably going to see him here. So already I was like, oh god, I'm going to get to see him. And in fact, you get to see all the rest of the knights as well. Yep.
This really rounds out like a lot of missing members of the cast.
Yeah.
Which I like a lot. It also references, the things she's saying about him failing in the quest directly contradict things that from like item descriptions and stuff of him being the Abyss Walker and kind of having this legendary reputation. Like, the chronology of when Dusk starts referring to you, as having the same countenance as Artorias, that we're unsure on, but there are several implications that he was successful in his quest, and at this point, like you're kind of understanding, like you've gone back in time.
Yeah,
this is previous, and that he wasn't, which introduces like one of this really cool angle to the whole DLC, which is this whole like revisionist history
Right.
bit to it, which I think is really neat.
Yeah, or it's a stable time loop, and everything that was attributed to Artorias you actually did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always how I interpreted it, really. Just like, you know, you actually did all that stuff.
Like, yeah. The only witness was distressed and admits that she didn't pay a lot of attention. And Elizabeth at the end says, "I will tell no one of your deeds," which is a real dick move. Like, sing it from the highest mountains.
It's one, you know, it's the hero that Lordran needs, not the hero, you know, the hero that they deserve, not the hero that they need or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Artorias has value as a symbol.
Yes.
Even if he is corrupt.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but it's but it is definitely a wonderful premise at the very least.
Yeah, and really direct.
Yeah.
Like, and so people point this out about the DLC before too, but this is as direct as the game gets with its lore and with your kind of immediacy of your goals. And it has to do with like this kind of compartmentalized nature of this.
Right.
But it's kind of refreshing. Like I don't necessarily want a whole game like that, but I really like that. You know, I have a mission. You know, this is the story. This is the wrinkle. No one's, you know, not very many people are lying to me. You know, like I really like that about this.
Yeah. Elizabeth kind of acts like a merchant if you need her to, but she doesn't. I mean, she just kind of replaces some of what Dust sold.
Yep.
And it's funny because they're like all these games are about mantras, right, or different areas. So like in all of Lordran, the you know, it's praise the sun, but here it's, you know, may the flames guide thee, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, similar sentiment. Like it's still kind of this reverence for the flames.
It's
you
like
know, which kind of positions Elysiel as, you know, maybe a suburb or an ally kingdom, which other things, you know, in the lore also position as such. So
yeah. You exit out of the sanctuary and you get to the Royal Wood, which is kind of the first real area of the DLC, one of three. And I was immediately struck with kind of resemblances to Darkroot. John, what was your first impression of the Royal Wood?
Totally the same. I mean, you see that bridge and you're just like, oh, it's the forest. And then you have the scarecrows that, you know, they drop the same stuff and look exactly like the ants, and you're like, I mean, you know, it's the same map. They just kind of altered it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it lends further kind of credence to the idea that like this is Darkroot gone wild. So the same way that these scarecrows are using tools and, you know, are trimming trees, and in the future they're just trying to kill you.
Right.
You know, the same way the mushrooms do. Like this was once a civilized land. Like, you know, these things are less intelligent now. They can also hilariously drop the pitchfork item. Have either of you guys seen that in action?
Yeah. I've got like 3 of them.
I've played around with it a little bit. It's pretty silly.
It's one of my like white whales. Like I've never had it drop, but I've been the victim of a PvP invasion based on it, which was really fun. Because like when you can Toro that running leap, like that's real fun.
I always like somebody has to do like a Quina cosplay.
That would be
Final
awesome.
Fantasy 9.
That'd be excellent.
Yeah. It's I always found myself wishing that I could get the scissors. Like,
me too.
I don't know how that would work. Like, you would have to two-hand it to get a special two-hand R2 or something.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, those Ents are really freaky, much in the way that the Crystal Hollows are freaky, because I get the idea that like, oh, the Scarecrows are people who were hollowed or infected by something, and they are like early cycle or nascent Ents, and like they're progressing, so they are infected and overgrowing with this weird plant virus or disease. Yeah, that's the way
I
that
always
I
thought of them as just like plant people that were, you know, maybe there initially or created to tend the forest.
Yeah, they're kind of dressed up like peasant farmers a little bit. The way that I interpret their garb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially their action. Like it could be either or. Like it could be like they start getting this when once you start getting infected with the plant virus. Like, well, it's out to the orchards for you. Old Carl.
Oh no.
Like, yeah, like you get to spend the rest of your life trimming trees.
Carl, no.
Carl. Carl the Ent.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that strikes me about this area is how empty it is.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing in this field really.
It's so vast.
Yeah, it's huge, and I explored it, but there's some treasure that you can get. Like one of the things you can get is if you're kind of collecting armor from the new DLC. surrounding this area, you can get all of the Stone Guardian armor, which is the other new enemy in this area, who are a lot like the Gigantic Stone Knights, except they don't cast a spell and they're tougher.
Yeah. This armor is so bad.
Is it? I've never used that.
Yeah, like if you compare the weight to the damage that it does, to the protection that it offers, you're much better off doing like the stone like just straight up Stone Knight set. Like it looks kind of cool, like it looks a little bit more ancient and rustic, but yeah, it is not a good deal for the weight.
Do they drop their weapon?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay, that's unfortunate because it's got like a built-in special R2.
God, I love that. I love that attack. Like this might be my favorite basic enemy in the game, like from a gameplay standpoint, just because they hit like a truck. But like when you like with any other enemy, like the rest of the game has taught you, if they have a big attack, you can get them on the recovery, right? Nope, because they will then get you as they earthquake their hammer back up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're like, just like with any other like big open area, things can come at you from any distance, from any direction, from any distance, pretty much. So if you're not careful as you're going through and you're doing like I did and chasing after those little glowy flowers, thinking that they're items, you can quickly find yourself in a world of shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of enemies here. It's really dense.
Yeah.
I just thought of something too, and I don't think it's quite in the notes. Like, one thing that's interesting is the place this corresponds to in Darkroot has the Enchanted Ember.
Oh, yeah.
And in the same place, in a treasure chest, there's a blue slab.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I wonder if that's supposed to be like a progression thing. Like, will a slab turn into an ember after aeons?
That's the exact thought that I had when I found that, yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
I had no idea. Wow. That's...
Yeah, it makes sense.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and these other embers we found were probably the appropriate slabs, maybe at some point in the past.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good observation. I don't know what else to add to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, being up in that area is a little bit of a red herring because that's not how you progress. You'll find an area that looks like kind of where you find Alvina, in the present day, except the bridge is broken and the elevator cannot be called up from up here. So it's obviously a shortcut for later.
It's an interesting thing, too, about how and I read this somewhere, and I apologize for not having exact credit, but an interesting observation is, like, you can see how much magic infused the culture of Elysial when they use them, where Blighttown has these crude mechanical elevators. Mm-hmm. Like, Elysial has these magical energy elevators.
Yeah,
and just they're very mundane tasks that are being done with magic.
Right.
That's a good point. Have you seen the pictures of, or noticed actually playing that there's one of those fire dogs is running that Blighttown elevator?
What?
No. You know the fire dogs, the red little dog? There's a wheel that that's turning for the Blighttown elevator, and there's a dog running in it.
No way.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't see that.
It's pretty cool.
That is cool. Can you shoot him or anything? Is there anything you can do? I mean, I imagine they wouldn't let you do it, but I wonder what prevents you.
I don't think he's touchable.
Wow.
But take some binoculars, go down to Blighttown, check him out.
Good dog.
I'm not going back into Blighttown ever.
I'll go check it out, man. I can hang out there anyway. Hang out there whenever. I don't care.
It's my stomping grounds.
Yeah. Oh, Blighttown, stomping grounds. I'm going to go, I'll go check that out. That's awesome. I fucking love that I learned things about this game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Still, it's insane.
Yeah. But the proper way to go through is through a scarecrow ambush. I'm not certain, but like, is this the most enemies of this kind of like size class that fights you at one time?
The hollow ambush in the parish might be more.
Oh yeah, possibly. But the pathing AI on this is weird. So you see the one, and he runs away immediately, and then he comes back with like an entire forest of friends.
This is one of these areas that I fully explored the first time I was here, and discovered the optimal path through it.
Yeah.
So now I just run up the right wall and then take a left and run across the cliff, and I don't fight anybody here.
Oh, really?
I don't. You can get through the whole. Like, I never end up like swinging a sword in this area now, mostly because of Artorias, like needing to make a quick path to the elevator to get to Artorias. So because I did that so many times, like there's a lot of this stuff I've only saw the first time I was here when I was combing the area.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's very little reason to do anything in that part of the world wood at all. There's like nothing there.
Right.
Some mushrooms. That's it.
You can get some of those Elizabeth mushrooms.
Yeah.
Which is like maybe the rarest item in the game. I think there's only 6 of them in the whole game. You can never buy them. So
yeah. But that area over there is actually really kind of cool and important because you get to see Calamite, his very first appearance. If it is a he, I don't know. And scares the poop out of me because you think I thought that was going to be a boss fight.
Yeah, that would be crazy if they just like laid a boss fight on you in the middle of that forest, and like if you didn't clear out the forest, fuck you.
Yeah.
That would have been really tough. Yeah, and it's cool too because he's not, he's got a kind of a bigger sense of scale and looks more badass than the Hellkite Drake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But you get around to the other side, so you're taking the long way around because the bridge is out.
Like Earthbound.
Kind of, yeah.
Like the barriers.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
Nothing much there. You start seeing the scissor scarecrows, but not much until you get to the elevator to get down to the kind of the little grove area where.
Before that, like the second area of the forest is where you start seeing the corruption.
Oh,
so
that's right.
That's where you start having the oily tar patches on the ground and like the just beehives of gook.
The big abyss holes.
Yeah, big abyss holes. Yeah, just big gross like piles of abyss.
Yeah, just gaping a-holes everywhere.
Yeah, abyss holes. Yeah, like all these goatsies of abyss.
Don't make me put goatsy in the show notes.
Yeah, no, goatsies. Goatsy. So and there's also there's one of the areas in the game that's really not that rare, but it doesn't happen that often, where you literally have to jump across something to get all of that armor. Like you have to jump across a gap.
Yeah,
which is pretty rare.
Mm-hmm.
And you're rewarded with some nonsense, but for the most part, you kind of get this this view, and then you get to the shortcut.
Yeah, this view is pretty good because it cements that this is in the same area. You look up and you see Anor Londo, the walls.
Mm-hmm.
What it take to be Anor Londo? Do you guys have any alternate opinion of that?
I had never noticed that.
I've always thought it was Anor Londo. I didn't notice the Berg though, like that you noticed.
You look down, it's an area like the Berg, and you could compare some parts of like the township. So maybe it's the township. I'm not exactly sure, but it's a very similar kind of layout, architecture, blah blah blah. So like if you look at like the overhead map of Lordran as kind of like the center of this area, you see that it's almost radial, and like I could see this being like something that is like a couple of sectors out, but still adjacent to it, right? So maybe it's like if you're traveling outward from Anor Londo through Darkroot, this is like just beyond it. So my initial thing was like, hey, this exactly is Darkroot, and part of it is. Large portions of it are actually, but like this is kind of like a Venn. The Railwood is a Venn diagram where Ulasil intersects with Lordran as you see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So after you go down this elevator, you unlock this elevator, and this area again with not only generous with bonfires, but very generous with shortcuts.
Yeah.
You set up this elevator that goes down to this second area. That's a kind of a hub.
Yep.
For the area. Lets you go back to the beginning eventually. Lets you continue through the game, and then also lets you go fight Calamite if you want to.
Right.
And you run into the another NPC here, which is Marvelous Chester. Who is so again just Demon Souls references left and right. Like he's pretty much wearing the official's hat. Did you get that, John?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, I've seen somebody do a cosplay as the official of Dark Souls, which is really fun because they constantly use the audio distraction spell, which is the official's laugh.
Yeah,
more or less. It was pretty fun. You run into those guys in Demon Souls plenty now, Cole, right?
Not yet. No.
They're in 2-2 is when they. Or you start running them into 2-1, I think. So I think you probably have. They're like the fat guys who throw fire. Who are dressed like defeaters.
Yes, I have. Yeah. I have. I didn't notice. It's been long ago.
Similar kind of mask and hat that Chester's wearing.
So I didn't get that it was a mask. Like his like the description on his hat says that like it causes that face.
Yeah, I thought it was said like everyone who wears this wears the face of Chester. or something like that. And it is like it comes with the hat. So if you kill him for his gear, which I recommend because it looks cool, that becomes your face, which is like the only part of it I don't really like. Like the hat and trench coat are really cool, but
it turns you into a member of Anonymous.
Yeah.
Chester drops a pretty big lore bomb too. If you talk to him when he says about how the serpent tempted them into digging up Manus and letting loose the abyss.
Yep.
I thought that was pretty intriguing.
Yeah, like that ends up being like the keystone to a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
like if you it says everything about Kath. If you believe that it was Kath who did this and not Frampt,
right?
Yeah,
and in the end, like I mean, I like my end kind of idea of what the overarching story of Dark Souls is changes a lot.
Yeah.
But, the fact, and we'll get to it when we talk about the ending, but the fact that, like, both of them are present for the ending, means that it may not matter which one it was.
Right.
Like, there may not be as big a difference between them as you think. But yeah, so, you have sympathy for Elysiel, and clearly Anne Orlando did, sending Artorias here to kind of bail them out. However, they brought this on themselves, and they have disturbed the grave of the primordial human, and, incited his ornery wrath, I think is the language. Like,
right.
I like how Marvelous Chester talks a lot.
Yeah. I like everything about Marvelous Chester, actually. I think that just the fact that he's another person who's been plucked out of time.
Yeah. Isn't, like, you have it in here in the notes, but I don't think there's anything that verifies it. Like, wouldn't you imagine he has the other half of the pendant?
Yeah, that's what I think, anyway.
Oh, weird. I never thought of that. I assumed that, like, Manus had the other half.
That makes sense too, but then why is Chester plucked out of time? You know?
Maybe he found the other half of the pendant in his world.
Yeah, maybe. It could be. Like, there's a lot of, like, time being timey-wimey, explanations that happen in this area.
Different instances of the same half of the same pendant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm really thankful he's here, because when I come back now, and I'm fairly certain I'm going to die to Artorias, I can spend all my souls. So, like, I just buy a bunch of green blossoms, even though they're expensive from him. I'll go ahead and buy them, because otherwise I might lose them.
Yeah, and those are almost as good as money.
Yeah. Yep. So you can fight him for his gear, and he's actually a pretty good, pretty good fight. Like, the 2 NPC fights you do in this area, 3 NPC fights you do in this area are actually pretty good,
right?
Which is rare. Like, a lot of times those are too easy, and all 3 of them are pretty good in this one. And he has a couple unique moves. He does this, like, sweep kick.
That no sweep is really weird.
Yeah, no other character does it. It's really odd. There's a lot of lore speculation about this guy being a character who's referenced from Kareem. I can't remember the name right now. A prince, though, from Kareem that's referenced, and this being Chester. I don't think there's anything really to support that.
No.
But he's clearly from Kareem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because of the sniper crossbow and also the fact that he's a dick.
I think his gear says it.
Oh.
I might be wrong about that, but I thought his gear said it. And then the reason why people think he's royalty is because the gear is, like, it says it's high quality or fancy, fanciful.
Well, he could be an aristocrat.
Who knows? You can go down and fight Calamite now, but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But
actually,
for here
you can go down and get killed by Calamite.
Right.
But,
Well, you can go down and fight Calamite now, actually. Did you see that video, Cole?
I did see that. I guess I'm
you're,
thinking
you're
canonically.
Right. You're right. I mean, that you're doing the better way, but it is just a weird way you can do things in another order in the game.
Yeah.
But you can go down to Calamite now, and we'll talk about Calamite in the middle. But let's move on to my favorite boss fight in the game.
Yeah, Artorias, man.
Yeah.
Holy fuck. This was like 2 days for me the first time through.
Me too.
Yeah, he's so, but it's so good.
I know.
Okay, so first off, like, from the tone, let's get this out of the way. I love the idea that he snorts and he stamps. Like, he is entirely feral. Like, something has consumed the top of his brain, and he is totally brainstem and cerebellum. Like, he's just, like, he is so worse for the wear, and, like, I get the sense that if he had the use of both of his arms, I would not be able to fight him.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
he starts off by flinging a dead body at you.
Yep. Yep. And then originally he had some dialogue that they had in that made him kind of human, and they cut it out in favor of these like inhuman like growls and screams. Awesome decision. Like the dialogue, was cool from a lore perspective.
Oh, strong human. Surely mankind are more than pure dark. I beg of the spread of the abyss. It must be stopped.
And it still kind of exists for people to, fuck around with and do what we do with it. But the just the inhuman scream he makes at you, like, it's a real, like, oh fuck moment. It's an intro up there with like Gaping Dragon, but then the boss fight follows through, which is crazy.
The arena is covered with that blue corruption, and so is he. And he had that broken arm that he has. I love that too, because the way it kind of like just lolls about, like he's not feeling pain from it. No,
it's just, probably all he feels is pain, but he's not. Yeah, he's not bothered by like the broken arm. Like it just kind of lolls about, useless. So good. And his God, is there a lot that's really good to this? So we know that Sif was guarding the Covenant of Artorias.
Right.
We discover through various things, and may have already discovered. Like I said, the exact chronology of when you find things out gets timey-wimey in my mind. But that Sif was his companion,
right.
And he has a lot of the same moves Sif has. So like you get this sense of them fighting together for years and years, and getting like similar fighting styles.
Right. And he has kind of a wolf howl too.
Yeah. So good. So cool.
Yeah. It's like no matter which one you fight first, the other is an effective echo of the first one. Yeah.
Yep. And we'll have to do a brief talk about that too, because you actually get, we can talk about it right now. If you fight Artorias first, you get a different cutscene when you run into Sif.
Yeah.
The saddest cutscene ever.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to have to do this, the dog says.
Yep. I love Sif. I love Artorias.
Good. Yeah.
But it's like Artorias action figure now.
I just, I want that. But it's like pre and post Abyss Artorias. Yeah. But like it's a multi-stage boss fight too, because as he gets more, like I just imagine as he gets more damage physically, like the more and more of this kind of like abyssal force that he's a conduit for is coming through, right?
Yeah, he does this little power up boost bomb thing.
Yep. Unless you can stop him and like interrupt him.
Yeah.
But the kind of the sound and light kind of that comes from interrupting him is a lot like it going off, because it's an area effect as well. So I'm always scared to do it. Which ends up being tricky. Fine. Yeah, because you have to do a lot of damage pretty quick, or at least two-hand like several big shots.
Yeah.
Like the thing that I learned from this though, like this fight was a huge roadblock for me, and like I got so good at it. Like I'm really like a lot of the times when I fight Artorias now, like I do it without getting hit, which just feels awesome. Like I feel like I know this guy's pattern so well, and that's just it's a really fun feeling, And it was one of the first boss fights where it's like I needed to do that. Like it's just like, okay, you do this, and now I know it means you're going to do this. I know this is when I can attack you. I know this is when I need to early dodge, and this is when I need to late dodge. I just knew it. I just knew him in the end, and that just felt really good.
Yeah, I was actually pretty shocked at how easily he went down during Whipfest this afternoon. It's even if you don't do shit for damage to him, you can survive indefinitely.
Yeah.
And there's something between this guy, and that's true of Manus too, but there's something about this guy versus Manus where like Manus is still a problem for me and Artorias is not.
Right.
And I don't know exactly what that difference is, and we'll talk about Manus later. But like Artorias is like always fun for me, even when I'm like losing. I always know exactly what I did wrong instantly. Like it's it's my favorite boss fight in the game. And then from a lore perspective, like this knight having fallen, down, like it is disgraced knight and everything like that you've heard legends of before in your time, like being corrupted, like everything good in Dark Souls is. Like just it's perfect.
He thought he was the good guy.
Yeah, totally. You always think you're the good guy until you're the die the good guy, or you live long enough to turn into Artorias. Like, I love this boss fight so fucking much.
Yeah, it is really great. Everything we're saying is true. However, like for me, not however, and for me, this everybody says like you can really benefit from playing, shieldless and learning how to dodge and stuff like that. Like that was an interesting experiment for most of the other like boss fights in the game as I'm going through in this new playthrough with FDR. However, like this was the one where it's just kind of like, oh, you just can't ever rely on a shield. Like that is the way to approach this fight to me,
because he has like several attacks that just break through your shield no matter what,
right.
like overhand attacks, and then he just does so much endurance damage, and you don't know when he's chaining attacks. That like spinning somersault thing, there's no tell that I can find whether he's going to do that 1, 2, or 3 times.
Right.
Yeah.
So like blocking that is a fool's game. Like that is the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
So you just have to get good at dodging.
Does blocking that somersault ever work? I've never even tried. I don't think.
I think it how deep you are on the sword.
Right.
So if you can
that
catch
makes
the end of
sense.
it with your shield and be okay, but if he gets right above you, then you're done.
Yeah. It doesn't do a consistent amount of damage that I've noticed. So.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, you defeat him, one of the few like heroic characters in the game. Formerly heroic. You get the sense that you're putting him out of his misery, like a rabid dog.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then that opens up the the rest of the rest of the DLC. You get to a couple of different NPCs, but that's a little bit later after you find the key in the township itself. What's notable is if you come back after you defeat Artorias, you find Lord's Blade Kieran, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Who is the other knight, the one who is represented by the Hornet. She is there mourning Artorias and actually asks you for his soul, which you can give her in exchange for the Tracers, which are 2 short sword gladius type weapons.
Or you can kill her for the Tracers.
Yes.
If you want to.
Close.
There's not... What was that?
And you're close.
Yep.
Yeah. Like the same way you can kill anybody for their Tracers and clothes. But it's one of those things you don't get a unique reward for giving her the soul.
Right.
Which is kind of cool from... I feel like at this point, like if you want to use those Tracers, you're making like a Tracer build.
Right.
Because they're such a niche weapon, but it is like a nice thing you can do for her. And it is sad if she's just kind of mourning. If you fight her, it's a good fight again. Like she uses Lloyd talismans on you. She dodges like a pro. Like it's actually a pretty good NPC fight, which again doesn't happen that often.
Right.
She's the only NPC that uses Lloyd's talismans, isn't she? Too.
Yep.
That's like pretty unusual and weird.
God, so many awesome design decisions they put into this. Yeah. Also notable, you find the Hornet's ring behind Artorias' grave in the present on a female corpse, so you get the sense that she was there mourning him, or she opted to be buried there. So maybe there was something there. Yeah. Maybe did they check with HR in Anne Orlando? Huh?
Well, there's like when she dies too. If you kill her, she has a real faint line of dialogue that sounds like she might be saying his name.
How? You humans, my dear Artorias.
So you can reasonably conjecture that she's in love with him in some way, shape, or form. Like we all were before we had to kill him.
Yes. He stole our hearts, and then we had to break his.
Exactly. By which I mean tear the ventricles from it.
Yes, and then consume it for his courage.
Yeah. And so for his souls, to make a sword I'll never use. Yeah.
God. So this is as good a time as any to talk about. So Artorias' gear is just like roundly garbage, right?
I never use it.
It's the worst.
Like I love the way his armor looks. However, like anything that you have to make his souls into, like they seem like they're going to be like the ultimate weapon, Infinity Sword or whatever. But the stats are like the stat requirements are so high that you have to specifically make a build for them, right?
Yep, and then it's not really worth making that build.
Right.
The damage output is never worth it.
Yeah.
And it's true of a lot of like the weapons. It's true of Smo's hammer. It's true of like a lot of the weapons that you see being used. You're almost always better served by like a regular weapon plus 15 and max stat for it.
Yeah. Almost all of the boss soul weapons in the game are total crap.
Yeah.
The only two I could see like being marginally useful are the Fury Sword and Life Hunt, but
yeah.
Like, I use the shit out of Fury Sword. If you like its moveset, like, it's perfectly adequate for PvE.
Right.
But all of them... Go ahead.
The Moonlight Butterfly Horn can be useful as well.
Yeah, I use that a lot, too. Yeah.
And the Moonlight Great Sword is not bad.
Yeah. That's a tail weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just as far as boss weapons go.
Yeah. I was just trying to catch in a technicality. Dick move, I'm sorry.
Well, thanks. Good. You win. Defense.
Defense.
Yeah, so you open up this thing, and I'm glad that this is your note here, where you had to open the Battle of Stoicism, which is like the Dark Souls dedicated PvP thing that I've never messed around with at all.
I did it once. It's garbage.
Yep.
Yeah.
I actually thought that was really funny when I saw the show notes, because I was taking some notes as I played through today, and I had the exact same note.
Really? Nobody uses the Battle of Stoicism.
It wasn't worded exactly the same way, but mine says PvP arena. No one uses it.
Yeah.
There was a in EverQuest. I'm going to be this guy. In EverQuest, there was a zone in southwestern Antonica called the Arena, which was like meant to be a dedicated PvP area, even on non-PvP servers. And it was cool because, like, you know, you could go, like, the idea was that this was this kind of like far off place hidden behind high level content that you could go to and, you know, just like have no holds barred, you know, fights, because it's like a shrine to the god of war. However, it was never ever used. Much like many areas in old world EverQuest, and the only time I ever went there on purpose was for guild events. Yeah,
and there's like rankings and stuff like that. Like, and this has a direct kind of corollary to Demon Souls again. Like, there are those rankings, that area above the Nexus,
right?
That I went to once and then never went to again.
Yeah,
and similar. Same thing. I went here once and never went here again.
Right. As we said at the beginning, this episode is brought to you by Audible.com. And for you, our dear listeners, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you an opportunity to check out their service. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/bonfiresidechat. Again, that's audibletrial.com/bonfiresidechat for your free audiobook.
But you get to the meat of the DLC after this,
right?
Which is the Elysial Township.
Yeah, and exactly. This is the meat. It is an urban area, and there are possibly some of the most horrifying enemies. I know that it said the Ents and the Scarecrows were horrifying, but these are really scary. The bloatheads. Yeah,
these are, and it's the citizenry.
Yep.
Right. So like, these are the people of Elysial. They were betrayed by, a serpent. And given that, like, they're probably not going to introduce a third serpent in the DLC, like, it's probably not like Brango, the true neutral serpent. It was probably the lawful good or the lawful evil or chaotic evil serpent. One of the ones we've already seen before. Disturb this grave, and they're being corrupted by the same thing that corrupted Manus. And just, or not Manus, Artorias.
Right.
And, this town is in ruins. Like, it's literally destroying the foundations and making the bridges lay at awkward angles and crumbling the buildings.
Yeah, it's very subtly unsettling. Just how kind of like you'll be in a room and notice that even the floor is off level. Like the perspective lines don't match up to what they should be if you are in a level floor. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I like the distant scream you can hear when you're coming down through the township too.
Yeah.
Super nice touch.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you explore this area. You're running into two enemies mostly. It's the regular bloatheads, which are kind of the equivalent of a hollow here, but like hit much harder.
Yeah.
And have a harder moveset to kind of deal with, and are never really alone.
Right.
So they're always in groups. And then the witch versions of the bloatheads, which are really tough.
Yeah.
They throw out dark sorcery, which is like, if you don't dodge it, nothing you have is going to do, because it does physical and magic damage, like all dark sorceries do.
Right.
So it's hard to dodge against, and it does tons of endurance damage.
Right. Yeah, and they're always well guarded, like you said. They're never alone, and this whole area is kind of about enemy placement. Like they put a lot of thought into the way it was designed, where it's a progressively more difficult series of encounters, kind of culminating. I feel like when you get to that bridge, and there's like 4 of them on it, and a sorcerer at the end of it.
Yeah, if you don't have like an arrow and can't take out that sorceress from a distance, like that's very difficult.
Yeah.
So, and it's difficult shieldless too, because the shield will do a little bit of damage. Like eventually, I got good enough at dodging and rolling through sorceries to do it. But if you miss time, one of them is going to do a lot of damage to you.
Yeah.
So,
I definitely arrowed that guy the first several times through.
Yeah. You start running to, kind of weirdly too, you start running into unique items, not only the important ones, but you start running into these carvings.
Right.
Which are hilarious and key for PvP. They're so good. I'm sorry. This is probably my favorite.
I love how that's like the Dark Souls. I love how those things are like the Dark Souls version of voice chat. It's so silly. You can voice chat now, but you can only say 4 things, and only in this goofy ass voice.
Yeah.
and I love we could talk about it now. They're carved out of arch trees, which is cool, and that's Go's voice.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he somehow is magically imbuing his voice into these little whittlings.
It's the Lordran equivalent of those electronic greeting cards.
The chip. Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear it's a boy.
Celebrate good times. Come on. It's a celebration.
Hanukkah.
I'm sorry. Happy Hanukkah. I'm sorry.
My condolences.
You're pregnant. I love those things. But the big things you're running to, kind of going through this, and the path, it gets a little non-linear. You can kind of essentially take a straight path or go right and kind of dig through rooms and crumbling areas of this, which you're well served to, because you start getting some quest items.
Right.
Include the crest key, which is how you're going to get to go, and then the silver pendant, which, like, the time I found that, so like a Dark Souls moment that I had. For some reason, the silver pendant is behind a hidden wall that isn't an illusory wall like a normal one.
Right.
You have to cast light or have a lantern on it. The way the game signals this to you is by having the loudest, like, scariest beat, like deep rumbling when you're standing there. And like I was like, what the fuck's gonna happen? And like something was attacking me, or something was like gonna attack the city. Like I was like, oh, this is like literally, I had like the Jurassic Park scene in my head, standing outside this door, because I didn't realize, I was like, oh, I rolled into this, it's not a secret door. What is this like thumping bass, noise? And it was just it's really loud. It's louder than anything else you have at this point. And just the game telling you to bring out light, which is weird. Is the message that's there, is that a developer message?
Yeah.
That says like shed light? Yeah.
That's a really strangely out of character puzzle, like, for the game. It's kind of Zelda-ish.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And it makes me think that like maybe they didn't have that developer message there, and it would have been like they realized like this is really fucking crazy. Like, let's just tell them what to do.
Without the message, it would have been, ridiculous.
Yeah.
If one person would have figured it out after banging their head against it for a million years, and everyone else would have read it in a FAQ.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Like a lot of
which I did anyway.
Stuff.
Yeah.
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 Yep. The silver pendant defends against those dark sorceries. Like, you use it and you get a little force field for a couple seconds.
Yeah.
That will repel those, which is pretty neat, and is useful. Like, I see people use in PvP, and because this was like, how every area kind of has an upgrade path. Like, this was the area that was like, sorcerers are not powerful enough, like, which is not true. So now a big thing for PvP is like dark sorcery, because it's really overpowered.
Yeah.
And this game gives you a lot of options for it.
Even the dark pyromancy is really, really useful. Powerful. Yeah. Overpowered.
I think sorcery was not very great for PvP before this.
Right.
I feel like I've seen a lot of people. I guess that's true. Like, not great for PvP, but really overpowered for playing through the game.
Yeah, it was already way overpowered for PvE, but it was pretty much shit for PvP.
That could be what this was designed to address.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, or partially what the upgrade path, and the power ups you get are designed to address.
But you get these key items. Do we want to sidetrack back to the beginning and talk about Go and Calamite?
Yeah, maybe not that. I always end up doing Calamite as a boss fight after Manus, but we can talk about it now if we want to, because we can do it now.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah.
So you get down to this like pretty cool little area of the township where you're inside a gigantic building, and it kind of does a little bit of that thing where Dark Souls hadn't really done that much before, which I don't like, which is like the Neverwinter Nights syndrome, where like you're just in a building that's 5 times as big as it needs to be and is really empty.
Right.
Like if you're in the burg, like all those buildings have purpose and are really cramped with things, and these areas are just kind of, this is a big, huge, empty building for no reason,
right.
Which is a little frustrating. But if you find this kind of hidden area and protected by a mimic, is this key that will unlock a cell back by the Battle of Stoicism where you can meet Go.
Hawkeye, who does surgery and makes remarks, and then it gets real sad. He makes martinis in a still that he has.
Yeah.
I love the sound that you can hear from outside of his door before you open it too.
Yeah, yeah. But he is summering here in his retirement. He has laid his dragon slaying aside, even though there is one literally right outside of his front door, in order to whittle arch trees.
Yeah, well, because he thinks. One of the things that's really tragic about him is he thinks he is blind.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Like he says he's blind, but there's resin in his helmet.
Which makes no sense.
Yeah.
Take it off.
Yeah.
Or like you'd still be able to see like something. You'd just be like, oh, all I see is this weird goo.
The inside of a helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah, why does everything look like the inside? This must be what blindness means. It doesn't make sense. But he's one of Gwyn's knights.
Right.
Yep. Which we didn't mention. He was the archer of the group, and has like a gigantic bow and gigantic arrow. He is a merchant, so sells you gigantic arrows mostly, among other things. But if you've died to Calamite before, which means you went down and he killed you probably in one hit with the flames.
Yeah.
He asks you whether Calamite's causing you trouble, and he will ground Calamite so you can do the proper boss fight.
Yeah, in an amazing cutscene.
Just as a real silly technicality, you actually don't have to die to him.
Oh, I think I read that.
What I usually do is I go down there and I grab the Titanite slab and then I homeward bone out.
And that is enough to to...
Yep, that's enough to trigger the scene.
Mm.
Just as long as he goes past and breathes fire at all.
He just has to do his little swoop.
Yep.
The thing I had mentioned earlier, too, is somebody found this out and it was brand new to me, is that if with enough Dragon Slayer Great Arrows, you can kill Calamite without Go's help. He can do his little if you have a 100% fire resistant shield, he will do his little swoop and you can hit him with an arrow if you time it right. It takes forever, but Go has different dialogue if you do that.
Really?
If you kill, yeah, yep.
Huh. Yeah, it's fucking nuts.
Yeah, somebody on the Bonfire Side Chat Facebook page, which I'm forgetting the name, and I'm bad at crediting people who give us attention, bring our attention to things, so I apologize. But it's called something like, it's not 10 things you maybe didn't know about. It's not a Vada Vidya video. It's like another 10 things about Dark Souls video, and I'll put it in the show notes.
Yep.
But it's really cool.
But the Calamite fight, if you come about it honestly and not in the Go way, it is really, really hard. This to me feels like Dark Souls' answer to Emerald Weapon almost. Not in the weird 20-minute time limit kind of way, but just because I don't
he's
know,
designed to be the hardest fight in the game.
Kind of, yeah. To the way that I play him. Still, I have beaten Calamite. I have not beaten Manus, so I don't know where I get that from. But it definitely feels like this is strictly optional. Yeah,
it is strictly optional. The rewards you get, if you can cut off a tail, which is really hard. You get a great sword that I haven't seen. John, do you know if that's any good? Do people use that? Is it any good?
It's not great. I have a character that I built around it. Specifically because it's a weapon that does a decent amount of physical damage with no scaling, and you can buff it. So it's pretty powerful. It gets up to like 400 damage, and then you can buff it, and you only need you need like 20 strength to wield it, and that's it.
Oh, that's it. Well, all the dragon weapons, that's true of, right? You can buff all the dragon weapons?
You can't buff any of the other dragon weapons.
Right. Yeah, the Drake Sword you cannot.
Huh. I could have swore there was another one you could, but I could be wrong.
There might be, I'm not sure, but none of the useful ones at least. But the moveset is real shit. It's real short. It's like a stubby bastard sword, basically.
Yeah. The video is called 15 Mysteries You Didn't Know About Dark Souls? ? And it was posted by Jeremy Dawson.
Oh, thanks, Jeremy.
Yes.
So Calamite, and I don't think we mentioned this, he's the last of the eternal dragons.
Yes.
Or so they say. There's the everlasting dragon.
Right.
But he is one of the, in the great war against the dragons. And Go talks a lot about the war, which is really cool.
Yeah.
If you press him for dialogue. But really, really tough fight until, the thing that unlocked this for me, I had such a hard time with it. But when I played with my sorcery character, I was like, oh, that was fucking easy. And then, the thing that unlocks it is, use range weapons, and it's the easiest fight in the game. It's really easy to beat him with range weapons.
And it's thematically appropriate, and I never thought to do it.
Yeah.
So...
arrows are his weakness, and the game telegraphs that to you.
Yeah, literally, by pointing the camera at it and holding it there and saying, look at this!
Arrows! Follow the arrow. Yeah, so because his fire, his most common attack, you can lock, it doesn't go as far as your lock-on distance.
Right.
So he just does it into the air, and you just shoot him a bunch of times in the face. No big deal. Remind me what it happens when he catches you in his weird psychic thing, because he's never caught me in that.
He puts that little red dot above you that makes you get the calamity ring effect. It makes you take double damage.
Pretty cool. That's a cool effect for the boss to have.
Definitely.
How come someone hasn't hacked that into a sword yet? Get on it, hackers.
Yeah, that won't ruin you cursing you in an opportune time, though. So, yeah.
Everything about Calamite is from saying that we know that you are gluttons for punishment, and there are people out there who want harder.
Right. Because
it has the calamity ring. Which you can only really use. By this point, you've gone through at least half the game, so it's really a new game plus, which is already a challenge thing. Mm-hmm. And he's a really tough boss in and of himself.
One of my favorite Dark Souls videos, and I'll be hard pressed to dig it up, but it's a guy who had the calamity ring on him. He was trying to do some kind of let's play speed run, challenge kind of thing, and he was in Lost Izalith. He had rested at the bonfire there, and he was getting ready to re-equip his orange charred ring, and he accidentally equipped the calamity ring.
Oh.
And he stepped out and he lost 7 million souls.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, and all he could do is laugh, because what else can you do? But he's like, oh my god, that is the dumbest thing.
Well, and if at a certain point, those low level things, souls are nothing.
Right.
You don't give a shit. I managed to kill Calamite with my soul level 1 character, which just took forever. But you can do it. Your +5 lightning crossbow.
Right.
But it's just you lose souls like nothing.
Right.
Yeah. So after and if you beat him, Go has some nice dialogue for you, congratulating you, and will give you his bow.
Right.
You can also fight Go to get it, and if you do, he does tons of wrestling drops on you.
Yeah.
His main move is just to kind of fall on you.
Yeah, it's his whole thing is to trick you into trying rolling under him.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't want to kill Go. I like Go.
Right.
He's a solid bro.
A solid Go.
He's a solid bow. So if you go, so you head back down into the township, and you're heading towards the abyss. There's kind of more sorcerers. There's one of the tougher, little micro encounters in the game.
Yeah.
Which is the area right before you get into the abyss, with the 2 sorcerers on the steps, mm-hmm. and the multiple bloathead guys waiting in the wings.
Yeah,
that room is such a bitch.
They can hit you from basically across the map.
It's so hard at soul level 1.
Yeah.
Or no shielding, that was really hard too.
Yeah.
Yep. I did that this afternoon and died 5 times.
Yeah, it's so hard. It's right by a shortcut, so you can get to it pretty easily, but right. Jesus Christ, that is a hard little set piece.
Yeah.
This takes you back to the shortcut, to the beginning of Ulusil, the township. And if you are trying to summon for kind of what's coming afterwards, that's the best place to do it. However, that is the most happening space for PvP. So that ends up being almost a non-functional shortcut.
Yeah, and then the I end up running for that bonfire all the time to get past this little area, but yeah.
Yeah,
I love how that's like the PvP hotspot, and it's right next to the like official PvP zone that no one uses.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
It's like everybody's hanging out in the parking lot doing the real PvP.
They're tailgating the Battle of Stoicism.
Yeah, it's like everyone playing foosball outside of a football game.
Yeah.
And we would be remiss too in that area if we didn't mention that's where you can get invaded by Chester.
Oh yeah,
if you want.
Oh yeah.
There's not much to that. You can't summon him, which is how like a lot of the NPC invasions work, or at least how Maneater Milfred works, where you get the hostile Maneater Manfred Man. That's how that one works. But this one you can't summon him or anything. There's really no reason unless you just want to fight him and not kill him. So you go into here, there's this weird little hall with these statues that keep turning up of this kind of like crying maiden, and you run into a unique enemy in the game, which is this chained prisoner.
Yeah. It looks like something out of like a Resident Evil game.
Or like a Silent Hill.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I was thinking Silent Hill when I ran
I was thinking like Lisa Trevor a little bit. Yeah. But oh my god, it's so good. Like he is specifically designed to break your poise. And just like there's this weird element of like him just setting you off guard and like the recovery that you have to do around it, and he'll break these statues if you kind of like lure him around. He hits like a truck, and he has like long enough range. He's not specifically a boss because he will respawn, but he's effectively the mini boss of this area.
Well, and you'll
respawns?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Why are you running into him again? Why aren't you resting at the bonfire right after him and then never going through here again?
If you are running from the township bonfire.
Oh, running to try to get PvP help.
Yeah.
I want to know who this guy is.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't it seem like he should have lore significance of some kind?
He's the priest who awoke Manus. Boom.
Yeah. Fair enough. Let's move on.
Sorry. No,
totally good. I tended to think that Dusk had something to do with awakening Manus, and that is why he has imprinted himself onto her, like kind of like a first thing you see baby bird kind of thing. was what I was maybe thinking, but could be this guy. Who knows? He just drops chainmail, which like is nothing. Like, do you just design it out of the chains that he was carrying? Like, I can buy this from the Undead Merchant in the Berg.
Yeah,
I need this from you.
Exactly. I think that it's their idea of like the closest thing they can get to a joke in dropping weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always kind of assumed that like some of his chains were just made, that was all like makeshift. They just used pieces of chainmail and kind of tied them together or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, his deal.
So good.
Yeah. And then you enter the Chasm of the Abyss, the final area of the DLC.
Yes, I have to take issue with the way that you pronounce that. I don't know. I don't normally do that. It's chasm.
Of the Abyss?
Chasm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be that pedantic. However, I don't want you. I'm protecting you from corrections.
Okay.
I'm protecting you from corrections because
the only possible way that you could end that sentence, I don't mean to be that pedantic, and not have it be ridiculous. Like if that ended any other way, you're going to get a world of hurt, Kole Ross.
I was walking down a hallway and I saw broken twigs and tripwires.
Yeah. You pulled yourself out at the last minute on that one.
Yeah. But the chasm is real good.
Which I know how to say.
Okay.
I was just reading it and then.
Oh, okay.
Like you read something and you just kind of like, I know how it's pronounced. It's not like I spent my entire life saying defense. So talk to us about this Chosm.
Yes. So this Shirley Chisholm was deep political reference.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I think she was one of the first black senators. But proceeding feels like the Tomb of the Giants, a little bit to me.
It's dark.
Yep.
It's dark. It's subterranean. There are coffin bridges. Feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
this area and the township do not have a correlation in modern times, right?
No.
Okay.
Modern times vis-a-vis the game world, or right
Yeah.
now in the world? Okay.
Well, yeah, this is a lot like, I don't know, like Denmark. No. I meant in the game world, the same way that like the Royal Wood is Darkroot.
Because you said cosplay earlier, and I was thinking, somebody cosplaying as Marvelous Chester, that'd be pretty cool. But then, like, it was a PvP, it was like a Let's Play
real
YouTube
deep
thing.
in Dark Souls. Cole.
Yeah, okay. I discerned your meaning real quick, but I was just kind of like, I just want to make sure.
No, you're right. Like I probably could have clarified that. This one, it's kind of, I was trying to figure out like maybe there's some kind of legs to this actually being Tomb of the Giants, but no.
It could be connected. It could all be part of the Sam Underground cave system.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen like the images that people make in that map viewer? Like someone wrote a map viewer app so that they can see the models for the maps.
I've not seen anything from the DLC, but I've seen Lordrum proper.
Okay.
What have you seen in that?
Well, I've seen people have lined up, the DLC map with the Lordran proper map, the parts that line up at least.
Oh, I've not seen that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's interesting things that line up. I mean, you might not notice it, but like the Calametes Basin where you fight him is the same place where you fight the Hydra.
Yeah, that is something I was remiss in not mentioning.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's cool. I will find that and then put it in the notes.
But I seem to remember from looking at that the township just kind of veers off of the entirety of the regular game map.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's a couple of big gulfs in Darkroot. That there's nothing there, and you can fill it up with pretty much anything.
Right.
Yeah.
The enemies here, so the kind of the problems here is that it's dark, and that there's still sorcerers, still bloatheads, and then there are these humanity spirits, which look like floating John Lennons to me, like with the glasses. I just keep thinking they're just gonna they're perfectly round glasses, essentially, that they're wearing, and I just keep expecting them to walk up to me and just maybe I'm dead and you're alive, and just kind of just be real fucking I'm the biggest creep in the world, I'm John Lennon, and just really that's what they look like to me from a distance. They all look like John Lennon posters.
Yeah, they also look like large 3D versions of the humanity sprite.
That's what it's intended to be. They're just humanity sprites with eyes, essentially. There's some mod that somebody on some video, and I'll never find it, where they had their humanity sprite had googly eyes, and that was the only thing I could see that what the mod was. It was really funny. It's like what?
Oh man!
Weird.
So, that one of my favorite pranks that I've ever pulled. It was inspired, and in fact maybe stolen from Achewood. But to when somebody was away at my college house, put googly eyes on everything and to give it a face in their room.
That's funny.
Yeah,
like a Michelle Gondry video, or a Polyphonic Spree video too, or that video that's in Eternal Sunshine where everything has the face.
Oh yeah.
The music video from the song from that, whatever the song was.
Yeah.
And these guys are interesting because they don't. When I first ran into them, there are a lot of them, and they were tough for me. And I was trying to figure out what it is, and what it is that they do not react to being hit.
Right.
Yeah.
So if they're advancing on you, they continue advancing on you when they get hit, and you just lose life from touching them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at a really steady rate. They don't do damage. It's however much time you are inside their incorporeal body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but fighting them, it's like fighting clouds of smoke.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And they have a huge drop rate for humanity. They've supplanted the rats as the humanity farming place. Not as good as the baby skeletons, but this is
so
a great
much easier to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're guarding some of those sorceries and spells that we mentioned a little bit earlier. I believe Dark Bead and the Dark Flame are down here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is an area where you want to get to as quickly as possible if you're doing any kind of PvP sorcery build. Yeah, so this is kind of a weird loopy area. Navigating it is kind of hard, made even harder by the fact that there are 2 ways in and out because of the shortcut that you can unlock. However, you can find Alvina, who leads you to Seth. Who is cowering and in danger of being overtaken by humanity spirits.
Yep.
and she is guarding Artorias' shield too. So.
Yeah. Well, the shield. I got the idea that the shield was what was protecting Sif.
Yeah.
So when Sif teleports away, the shield is what remains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting too because I had not made this connection before. Like, Alvina is explicitly guarding Artorias' grave in the presence, but the idea of like her and Sif and Artorias being just like this, kind of like little adventuring crew kind of idea, like didn't really come together for me until this happened.
Right. Man.
And
DS spin-off game right there.
That'd be awesome.
Do like a DS, like a
Lost
literal,
Vikings?
like a Nintendo, like a Nintendo DS Gaiden game, like all in cutesy sprites.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that would be awesome. Like
Chibi Dark Souls Gaiden.
Go.
Like I would play the fuck out of Chibi Dark Souls Gaiden. Like don't even joke.
Don't even joke. Don't get a bro's hopes up.
Don't get my bro hopes up, bro. Yeah, it's really cool. And then just like if you're any kind of human being, like you like Sif, and excuse for more Sif is great, and it's that kind of comes into play later. That shortcut you're talking about, I'd never use.
No, it's pretty much useless.
Yeah, the one that leads, because it's faster to go from the top of the abyss. And again, my mastery of getting through this area quick is just informed by how many times I've fought the boss.
Yeah, me too.
So I can just get down there immediately. The interesting thing about that great shield too, though, just as is it's a really good great shield.
Yeah, like
we talk about Artorias' equipment being garbage. The cleansing great shield is great.
Yeah,
like it's a really good great shield, and then no buildup effects will happen to you. So no poison, no toxic, no bleed can happen to you, or curse. I think if any attack does curse,
right?
I
haven't used it, but doesn't it have like 80% physical reduction or some crazy shit?
No, let me look at that real quick and make sure that I'm not totally talking out my ass. I don't think so, but you might be right. I thought maybe I'm getting its attributes mixed up with a different great shield as well.
Are you thinking of the regular great shield of Artorias?
Oh, you're totally right. That is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, this has 80% physical. It's like there's no reason to use it.
Well, 80 magic, 80 fire, and 70 lightning.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you should use the Dark Hand if that's what you want.
Yeah.
Looking at this, the item description actually does say, Artorias, deeply scarred by the abyss, used this to form a barrier to protect his compatriot.
Yeah. And then the shield has been drained, so it was a better shield until it protected Sif for who knows how long. My bad. But yeah, I was definitely conflating it with the regular great shield of Artorias. Good catch.
Let me see something here. Listening to me type on the internet, that is fascinating. I just want to see if the models compare. Yeah. So you use Sif's soul to recreate the Great Shield. Actually, there are similar models, except the cleansing one is battered and beaten.
That makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. Yep. But if you rescue Sif here, you'll be able to summon her for the Manus fight a little bit later, which may or may not be useful to you.
I think it is useful.
Yep.
But it's not as useful as it maybe could be.
Yeah. So, with any boss fight, it's always a gamble between will the damage that this NPC or whoever I summon does, will it counteract or be outweighed by the increase in HP?
Well, does Manus actually get more HP when you summon Sif? Because it happens in the middle of the fight when you summon her.
Yeah, I wonder that too. And then also, it's not, Sif is not going to do any damage to Manus really. She does 100 damage. The idea is that she distracts him and gives you time to attack and heal.
Right.
Is the only thing that I can the reason why I want to summon her.
Right.
Do we have anything else to say about the chasm of the abyss before we get to Manus?
This is where the sorcerers become really painful to me, because it seems like no matter how far I run in the upper area, I always get snagged, especially in that long stretch where you're running over the coffin bridge. Yeah. And that can really mess you up if you're trying to make a run towards Manus and you are trying to preserve as much Estus as possible.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And then I can usually get through without getting hurt. I have that run up to Manus mastered, except for at the very bottom of that area where there are all those humanity sprites.
Yeah.
There's one sorceress that tends to hit me in the back while I'm on that bridge down to Manus.
That's the area that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
If you come at it from the shortcut end, you can actually get up to where she is and kill her and then drop down and cross the bridge. That's how I always do it.
Usually when I'm on like a repeated boss run-up, I don't want to kill anything.
Yeah.
I want to find a way that I'm just not going to hit attack and just get there as fast as possible. But it doesn't always work out that way. But then you come to Manus, which is, in some ways like the last boss of the game.
Yeah.
You can kill him before going into his chamber, which I just like that there are those exploits. I would never do it. He's optional, just skip him. But you can do it with arrows if you want to.
Right.
And Manus.
But then you get down there. So Manus to me is really interesting from a lore perspective, but we can probably talk about the fight first. It is a really, really hard fight.
I have a really hard time with this too. When we talk about summoning Sith, Manus is really aggressive.
Right.
I think he's probably the most aggressive boss in the game. He's kind of, he's similar to Gwyn, I guess. Gwyn is very aggressive as well, but Gwyn sometimes gets into those mosey states where he's he's about to come at you, but he's just kind of sitting a spell. Manus is never sitting down on the job. He never has his hands in pockets. He's always trying to get you. Yeah. And that makes it really tough. It's a really fair arena that you're in. That's not the problem. I know what his attacks are, and I can dodge them, but something about his tells and the limited amount of time to attack him, it's harder for me than Artorias, much, much harder.
Yeah.
I definitely died within 10 seconds, the first several times.
Yeah, he just does it to you. There's just these leaping attacks that have huge distance.
Yeah.
Knowing there is a difference between the attacks you can counterattack and the ones you can't, but the difference is subtle.
Right.
And then halfway through the boss, he starts doing sorceries.
Yeah, and those sorceries really fuck my shit up because it's really he doesn't telegraph them nearly enough for me to clear the distance to be safe from them, and because they are dark sorceries, and because I generally have my Estus up and not the silver pendant, it is really, really difficult to try and soak that damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and there are really clear tells for all of those, but they're all just him doing different things with his catalyst.
Right.
So you just have to learn to spot them. But in the heat of battle, when you're running around, your camera is not steady. It's kind of hard to tell. Did he lift it or did he slam it down? Which one he's going to do. And there are ways to avoid all of them too. But you have to you're making really rapid fire connections in your brain. What I saw means this, which means this is coming, which means I need to do this.
Right.
And it's I feel like there's just kind of an extra, step to it. And the things you have to do are so disparate. It's not just you don't dodge. You dodge one of them, and the other two you have to do a really kind of prescriptive move,
right,
to avoid them.
Yeah, the spells are also you can't just slam on the pendant button either. Even if you're using that, you have to get the timing right on that.
Yeah, very difficult. Difficult boss. This is the only boss I haven't. I haven't killed Gwyn because I don't want to end the game. But him and Gwyn are the two that I have not beat with my soul level 1 character.
Right.
And I can't. I just don't have enough health. I die too quickly. I'm doing too little damage, to him. I just can't last long enough to beat him with my soul level 1 character. I think I'm done with it. I think I'm going to give up on that dude. But yeah, it's just really frustrating because I was having a good fun time, soul level 1 in it, and Manus came along and just. Fucked everything up, man.
Yeah.
That was something that I guess came back to over and over again over the course of a couple of weeks. Just I have 10 minutes free. I'll see if I can kill Manus today.
Yeah. It's funny when we talk about Sif. I was having such a hard time with Manus the first time I fought him, and then I saw Sif's summon sign, but some fucking asshole had waited until after the battle to put an orange soapstone over it.
Yeah.
So I had to wait for it to toggle or bring up the toggle menu. This is the only summon where you don't do a menu. You don't have to confirm that you want to summon.
Right.
But if a soapstone's on top of it, you can't summon it in one click. And if you hit the click button, it makes you read, and then you die.
It's a dick move, but it's also a really good grief.
It's funny. It's a funny thing to do, and he had to remember exactly where the summon sign was to put it there and stuff like that, but it was a dick move.
I don't support this kind of behavior, but hats off to you.
I was mad.
Yep.
Real mad.
Yeah, I've not beaten Manus yet, 8 months later or whatever, but Yeah, I don't even know.
Yeah, you gotta beat it. We're almost done with the podcast, dude.
I know.
You gotta complete the game.
I know. I tried this time, but I couldn't. It's my shieldless, dude. I just can't.
Yeah.
Like, if I couldn't swing it with a shield.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah. But
in a weird way, like, I had almost an easier time with my shieldless guy just because I was doing a lot more damage.
Yeah.
With him, and I found that he is so difficult to block that the times I've been successful against him, I treat him like Artorias, and dodging is the only option.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's very little really that you can use a shield for against him. There's a couple attacks, but it's not usually worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the security blanket effect, it makes you feel like you're invincible. It's Dumbo's feather.
Yeah.
Well, block with your two-hander.
I know. But it's not the same. Yeah. But so you defeat Manus, and then Dust shows up, and she is like curled up in the fetal position and sobbing. So really, your only option. I forget. I've not played it. I've not beaten him. So it's is it bonfire out, or do you have to homeward bone out?
There's a bonfire out.
Okay.
Yeah. Bonfire pops up.
Yeah.
And we'll start talking about the lore of this area here in a second, but let's just finish up what happened.
Yeah.
In there is that so you bonfire out. This will make Dusk reappear in Darkroot. And you talked to Elizabeth. We talked about this earlier. She promises to keep your secret about you having saved Dusk instead of Artorias. I think it has to do with that. The idea of Artorias is valuable, kind of thing. And then you've got a quote here of what she says, which is interesting.
Yeah, this is actually Dusk saying.
I still think on that creature from the abyss that preyed upon me. My faculties were far from lucid, but I quite clearly sensed certain emotions. A wrenching nostalgia, a lost joy, an object of obsession, and a sincere hope to reclaim it. Could these thoughts belong to the beast from the abyss? But if that were true, then perhaps it is no beast after all. Oh, please forgive my ramblings. It's just that I wish to know the truth, and no one, not even loving Elizabeth, will tell me.
Yeah, so Manus is tricky from the lore perspective. What I believe, and something I've read in other conjectures, is that Manus is the furtive pygmy warped by the abyss and kind of by the effects of what the Dark Soul, humanity, kind of did to him. We have the notion that the different lords are people who are granted special powers because of the souls that they got from their proximity to the first flame. I think the pygmy was the first of the humans, just like, Nito was the first of the dead, blah, blah, blah. And he was just a dude who had this thing and kind of worked from the shadows. And maybe he was buried, maybe he, was entombed, just like Nito or Gwyn, et cetera, et cetera. And, his possession of the Dark Soul, that's what the serpents were after and trying to awaken the abyss. I'm not certain how the abyss relates to the dark or whatnot, but that's that's probably the most tenuous connection in the theory. And so I think that when you're fighting Manus, when you're talking about the primordial human, this is the furtive pygmy, and thus all of the lords appear in the game.
The first part of that, 100%. I think there's not a doubt in my mind that this is the furtive pygmy.
For sure.
Yeah, like the second part gets trickier, but the first part, there's so much support for it, and I'm glad you hit upon it. The biggest part to me is that you see everyone from the intro except for him. His absence is so notable, throughout the rest of the game. Who's this? Seath isn't one of the lords. He has a piece of a lord soul. Yeah, why am I not fighting all four lords? And you do. This is I have no doubt that this is the furtive pygmy. The issue, when we start getting into the serpents tricking Ulysseal, into doing that in order to get access to the void or access to the dark or the Dark Lord, that stuff gets tricky for me, and that I haven't made up my mind. I've read a lot of accounts, I've thought of it myself, but I don't have a final answer.
It just depends on how much conjecture you're willing to make, I think.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, John?
I don't think I really have a final answer either. I would definitely lean towards it being Koth that tempted Ulysseal, since he's kind of hangs out in the abyss. Framp doesn't do that, right? At least that we know of. Not
until the end. Not until he's in that weird hallway and everything's black around it.
Is that really the abyss though? Or is that just
It's not necessarily. I judge him by the company he keeps.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still feel like, I feel like the intention of the whole thing was that, they're kind of two sides of the same coin. It doesn't really matter which one you sided with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the DLC, like prior to coming here and seeing the effects of the Abyss firsthand, even more drastically than in New Londo, the Darkwraith ending where you side with Kath could arguably be considered to be the good ending, right? Because it's a new age for humanity, it's not the end of the world, etc. But you get a first glimpse at the all-consuming power of this, right?
Right, and I think that's what the game wants you to do. I'm sure Vivian will. Hopefully she'll copy it and write it in or edit it. But she had on the boards had a really good kind of idea as to which one she considers to be the good ending. And she She said that the player is supposed to do the Frampt ending and think that's the good one, and then you discover Kath and then you think that's the good one. Mm-hmm. But then she kind of took it further. And what if if the effects on Elysial or what happens to the Void, that doesn't necessarily invalidate the argument that this is something that has to burn out the same way you could maybe have to cut out a cancer, or the way that something has to be destroyed in order to be rebuilt.
Right.
Maybe the process is disgusting and horrific, and that's what they're showing us. So in a way, this can elevate either ending.
Right.
This can elevate the dark ending where you're saying, this is what you're paying, if you believe that and this, you want to do this new age, this all has to happen first, and it's awful.
Right.
And then it can also kind of strengthen the light ending where it's this is what you have to do. Of course you want to put this off a while. Mm-hmm. if you can put this off for another age,
right.
Do it, because things are terrible now, but they could be way, way, way worse. And there are still people, you never find out what happens in lands outside of Lordran. You don't know what's at stake on the positive end, but this gives you a really solid idea of what's at stake at the negative end.
Right.
Yeah. Things. And just knowing thematically what, FromSoft kind of does, that's a big part of Demon Souls, where the idea of life is terrible. Is it worth living? Is part of is a big thematic thing that happens and what little lore there is in that game. Is the world worth it,
right,
given what it is, which is that's a totally relatable and real life thought for a game about serpents and mushroom kingdoms.
Right.
I think about that all the time. When I was first got married, one of the things I said, and I'm glad I didn't have kids, one of the things I said was I'm really uncomfortable having a kid in this world, because look at it, fucking look at it. And my attitude on that has softened a little bit. Mostly because I met some really great human babies, but it's true though. It's really easy to get caught up in this shit is not is no good, and that's kind of I definitely take that from it, even if it's not the final thing I take from it. So
that is all incredibly relevant and poignant.
Yeah. And we'll hopefully have some more thoughts on that in the final episode of the show, proper episode. So wrap up thoughts on the area in general.
Your reward is mushrooms.
Yeah.
And also the experience of having done the boss fights or whatever. But it's funny, you go back to Elizabeth and she's like, here's your reward. These things which are too good to ever use, so you will never use them.
Yeah. Imagine she's giving you her 3 of her fingers though. And then it becomes a much bigger sacrifice. It's a big
Maybe
deal.
Those are her babies.
Oh God!
Raise these as your own. What?
No, the last of my kind.
Yeah, I know. Those were the ones that would have taught them truth, justice, and not to punch strangers.
Oh man! Wait a minute. Mushrooms at the bottom of the Great Hollow. Maybe Elizabeth is a leftover from the Ancient Age.
Yeah, maybe. She's been there for forever. Those mushrooms have to be none of the monsters you fight in the Great Hollow make sense to me from a lore perspective.
Right.
It feel, and they're both reused, so it just feels real goofy for me. That whole area. We'll get to it. What will we get to?
Well, we're taking a little bit of a diversion for the next couple of episodes. Our next thing that you're going to see from us is going to be a special about speed running that we did with Uber Goose from YouTube, who kind of taught us the ways of love and also running through this game real fast.
Primarily on Twitch, like super nice guy and really good interview.
Yeah.
Like I'd watched a lot of his stuff. Like I talked about Souls Bowl on here. Like he was a prime player in Souls Bowl, and really, really illuminating interview we did with him, which is really, it was really cool. It's a huge aspect of this game. This game has a huge speedrunning community. We only scratched the surface, but we treat it as kind of a 101 angle, like we did with the PvP episode.
Yeah.
Because we know a lot of listeners don't really know very much about it.
Yep. And then, are we comfortable saying what we're going to do between that and the final?
Yeah, I just realized something. You know what we're choosing to do? We're rekindling the flame on this podcast.
Yes, we are.
Like, we are choosing to sacrifice ourselves to the flame to put off the end just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fucking deep.
It is.
Thank you. Yeah. So go ahead and lay it on them.
Yeah. So we are going to bring Jeremy Greer back for a bit more of a deep dive into EC's world of PvP. So we've done the PvP corner for these past couple of episodes, and we want to talk about different areas in the game and various tricks and exploits and stories. And so that'll be kind of a lengthier special where we just kind of take a grand tour of Lordran from the Dark Wraith's perspective.
Yep, and as kind of another part of that, I'm going to try to make an effort to get some PvP experience.
Yeah, me too.
Between now and then, so we'll be able to maybe use some of the stuff we learned in the first one and just kind of spend some time doing it. Yeah. Which I've never spent any serious time doing. So I want to at least get a few dozen matches, maybe more, under my belt. So we're doing a follow up to that PvP episode, which was real popular. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And then finally at the end we are doing Killing of the First Flame, The Great Hollow, and Ash Lake.
Yes.
All in kind of a wrap up. No guest on that one. Me and Kole are going to bookend it with just the two of us.
Yep. Weird thing. Artorias's arena from a distance looks like the kiln. Like those weird columns popping up.
Huh. Cole's doing his research during the show.
No, I'm just thinking about it. I'm sorry. It's okay. Things that I wanted to mention but didn't. So
yeah. No, I didn't. I definitely didn't notice that.
Yeah.
But then that's it. And then we've got Demon Souls coming up for season 2. Mm-hmm. Putting together a guest list for that. Yeah. Real excited about starting that. So yeah. Before we totally wrap up with Dark Souls stuff, we'll get into the plug section. John, are you doing anything online right now?
No, not. Don't really have anything to plug.
You can just tell everybody your address and they can just swing on by.
Yeah, just come over to my house, hang out.
Plug getting drunk with Ryan Green. But John has been in many good bands, which you can never hear because of how we did bands back in our 20s.
Because of how we did bands.
Yeah. But thank you for joining us, John.
Yes, thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Yeah. You're welcome. I appreciate it. So there's no other place to get John, similar to Levi. Mm-hmm. But if you want more Gary and Kole, there are plenty of places. Mm-hmm. I want to, just first amongst them, real quick before we get into the shows. Mm-hmm. YouTube channel, me and Brayton from The Pitch have started our Double Dragon playthrough on YouTube. So the YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/watch out for fireballs. Has a couple of different Dark Souls plays going through, and we got our connectivity fixed and everything, so we're going to have regular episodes of me and Brayton going through as Jimmy and Bimmy from Double Dragon, all fist weapons and whips, dragon head, co-op through the whole game. So that is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Additionally, Gary and I do other audio podcast stuff, primarily among them Watch Out for Fireballs, which is coming up on its 50th episode, which is going to be about Castlevania 3, apropos to our discussion of Dark Souls, which feels in some ways like a 3D Castlevania. We're really excited about that. Check that out on Duckfeed.tv. Gary, you do a show with your friend Brayton, who you just mentioned. It might have been actually better to segue from your thing to that, but
no, it's okay. The Pitch. Me and Brayton Cameron, brilliant ideas once a week. We also do a Twitter. It's PitchPod. So we each come up with one each weekday. We're at like 225 now, I think. So I'm very proud of that show.
Yes.
I have a show called The Idea of Valhalla, which is winding down, but I'm going to replace it with something. I don't know what yet. But you can check that out. Me and Brayden both do, and I guess that this show could use some more love. We both do a show called Abject Suffering, which is kind of our take on...
You and Brayden or you and Kole?
Well, Kole, I want to break something to you. I'm starting a competing podcast with the same name.
Yes. No, I thought you were going to say I was Brayden the whole time.
No. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You're just the Kole robot wearing the Brayden skin. Me and Kole, I apologize for that.
Yes.
Me and Kole do a show called Abject Suffering, which is us doing short episodes about bad games.
Yes.
And is real good. And we just recently launched it, so check it out and join on Facebook and listen to it and stuff.
Yeah, and I do a podcast with some of my friends called The Level. It's about modern video games. And then I also do a show with my brother called Those Damn Ross Kids.
Yep. So it's almost if there is a show, or there's almost a show for every day of the week.
Yep. So yeah, and in general, just ratings, reviews on iTunes, subscribing. We have an Amazon link, Duckfeed.tv/tipjar. Admin section's been real long, so I'll spare you that. You know it.
Yep. And get drunk with Jon Wolf, and also praise the sun.
Praise the sun.
John.
May the flames guide thee.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon.
I'm not comfortable with you changing.
I'm comfortable with it.
No.
John, if you ever meet John in real life, he's a lot like Elizabeth the Mushroom.
It's true.
One of the things that's so heroic about John's whip battle is that his character has 2 whips, but John has no arms, much like Elizabeth. So
I do just come out of a wall and just sit here.
Yes.
Yeah, it was weird being in a band with him. Like he just sang a lot.
It was like he was like the drummer from Def Leppard, but twice as good.
Yeah, good. I'm glad we were. That's a well-crafted joke. Let's end on that.
Okay.